What does it take for a human being to become more than just a star? To step into the realm of immortality, not through myth, not through legend, but through music, dance, and the sheer power of artistry. Some say greatness is born, others argue it is forged through suffering, discipline, and fire. In the case of Michael Jackson, it was both. A boy from Gary, Indiana, who would transform into the most famous entertainer on earth. But behind the glittering glove, the moonwalk, and the screaming fans lay a story of pain, obsession, genius, and sacrifice. A story the world thought it knew, but never fully understood. Michael Joseph Jackson was born on August 29, 1958, the eighth of 10 children in the Jackson family. Their small home in Gary, a working-class industrial town, was cramped, noisy, and filled with constant tension. Michael's father, Joseph "Joe" Jackson, worked at the steel mills by day and played guitar with his local rhythm and blues band by night. His mother, Catherine, was a devout Jehovah's Witness who filled the household with love for God, but also discipline. Michael once described his childhood in haunting words. It was hell, but it was also where the music was born. And that contradiction would define his life forever, the beauty of his gift, wrapped inside the torment of his upbringing. Joe Jackson was determined. He believed his children were destined for greatness, and he would tolerate nothing less. To him, music was not just a dream, it was the only escape from poverty. He drilled his sons with military precision, demanding they rehearse for hours after school, sometimes until midnight. A wrong step, a missed note, a sloppy dance move was met with harsh punishment. Michael would later reveal that he feared his father so much that he sometimes vomited when he saw him. Joe's strong hand really molded the Jackson brothers into the Jackson 5. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and little Michael. At first, Michael wasn't even meant to be in the group. He was just too young and small. But one day, Catherine caught him singing and dancing solo in the living room, and she knew her youngest son was something special. He wasn't just good, he was extraordinary. By the time Michael was 6, his voice carried the raw emotion of someone who had lived a lifetime of sorrow and joy. His dancing was electric, instinctive, and captivating. His brothers noticed it. His father noticed it. Soon, Michael was pushed to the front, the tiny dynamo who would become the group's undeniable star. The Jackson 5 began performing at local talent shows and small clubs. Michael, barely tall enough to reach the microphone, would explode on stage, mimicking James Brown with uncanny precision. Audiences couldn't believe their eyes. He was a child, yet he moved like a seasoned professional. He didn't just perform the music, he lived it. Every spin, every scream, every glide of his foot seemed to come from someplace deeper than talent. It was as though music ran through his veins like blood. In 1968, their big break came. The Jackson 5 auditioned for Motown Records, the powerhouse label run by Berry Gordy. Michael walked into the audition room, shy but confident, and performed Gladys Knight's "I Heard It Through the Grapevine." By the time he was done, Motown's executives were stunned. Berry Gordy knew instantly, this wasn't just another group. This was the future. The Jackson 5 signed with Motown and were soon relocated to Los Angeles. Their lives changed overnight. Michael was only 10 years old, but his childhood had already ended. He was now a professional, recording in studios, shooting television specials, and performing before massive crowds. Their first single with Motown, "I Want You Back," released in 1969, shot straight to #1. It was followed by ABC, "The Love You Save," and "I'll Be There." 4 consecutive #1 hits, a record-breaking feat that made them instant superstars. America had fallen in love with the Jackson 5, but most of all with little Michael, the boy with the angelic face, the big afro, and a voice that could melt hearts. But behind the bright lights and screaming fans, Michael struggled. Fame was a cage. While other children went to school, played outside, and lived freely, Michael was locked in studios and rehearsal halls. He often cried because he wanted to play with neighborhood kids but couldn't. He later confessed, "I was forced to be an adult before my time. Now when I should be an adult, I'm trying to be a child." And there was another wound, his father. Joe Jackson continued to be both the architect of his success and the shadow of his pain. Michael would remember sitting on stage, performing for thousands while scanning the crowd in fear, making sure he didn't miss a step that might anger his father. Still, despite the pressure, Michael's genius bloomed. By the early 1970s, he was more than just the cute lead singer of the Jackson 5. He was a performer who outshined even his older brothers, commanding the stage with a charisma that seemed supernatural. Diana Ross, one of Motown's biggest stars, took Michael under her wing, introducing him to Hollywood's elite. Many believe Ross played a critical role in nurturing his confidence and sense of showmanship. But Michael also felt the limits of Motown. The label carefully controlled their sound, their image, and even their movements. Michael wanted more creative freedom, more artistry, more of himself in the music. At just 13, he began to record solo tracks alongside his work with the Jackson 5. His first solo hit, Got to Be There, revealed a maturity in his voice that was startling. He wasn't just a child star anymore. He was becoming an artist in his own right. By the mid-1970s, the Jackson 5's popularity began to fade. Musical tastes were shifting, and Motown's control over their careers became suffocating. The family decided to break away, signing with Epic Records in 1975. They renamed themselves the Jacksons, and for Michael it was a turning point. He was now stepping out of the shadow of being just the little brother. He was about to carve his own destiny. Yet even as he was rising, Michael carried deep scars. He hated his looks, often staring at the mirror with shame. His father had mocked his nose, calling it ugly. Those words would haunt him, fueling a lifelong obsession with his appearance. In interviews, Michael admitted that inside he felt lonely, isolated, and desperate for love. Fame had given him everything and taken away everything else. Still, in the late 1970s, a new fire was building inside him. He wanted to create music that wasn't just popular, it was timeless. He wanted to be more than a star. He wanted to be the greatest entertainer the world had ever known. That hunger, that relentless drive, would soon lead to the creation of an album that would change history. When Michael Jackson stepped out of the group shadow to pursue his solo career, the world didn't just see a singer, they saw the spark of something extraordinary. By the late 1970s, Michael was hungry for a new identity. He had tasted fame with the Jackson 5, but he wanted more. More freedom, more control, more magic. What he didn't yet realize was that the road he was about to walk would make him the most iconic performer of all time, and the most scrutinized. The turning point came in 1978, when Michael played the Scarecrow in The Wiz, a film adaptation of the classic Wizard of Oz, starring Diana Ross. Though the movie failed at the box office, it introduced Michael to Quincy Jones, a legendary producer. The two formed an instant connection. Michael admired Quincy's genius, while Quincy recognized Michael's insatiable ambition. This partnership would redefine pop music forever. In 1979, Michael released Off the Wall, his first major solo effort under Quincy's production. The album was groundbreaking. It blended pop, disco, funk, and R&B in a way no one had done before. Songs like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You weren't just hits. They were anthems of joy, freedom, and rhythm. The album sold over 20 million copies worldwide and gave Michael his first taste of solo superstardom. But Michael wasn't satisfied. He believed Off the Wall should have won more Grammys, should have broken more barriers, should have gotten more recognition. He once said, "I wanted it to be the biggest selling album ever." That disappointment fueled a fire inside him, a fire that would ignite the creation of Thriller. In 1982, Michael released Thriller. It wasn't just an album, it was a phenomenon. From the haunting groove of Billie Jean to the electrifying Beat It, from the romantic Human Nature to the cinematic title track Thriller, every song was a masterpiece. The music videos, especially Thriller, revolutionized the medium. No longer were videos just promotional tools. They became short films, works of art. The 14-minute Thriller video, with its zombies, choreography, and iconic red jacket, became one of the most recognizable pop culture moments of all time. The success was beyond imagination. Thriller sold over 66 million copies officially, though some estimates place it at over 100 million. It became the best-selling album in history, a record it still holds. Michael Jackson wasn't just a star anymore. He was the king of pop. But greatness often comes with a price. As his fame reached stratospheric heights, Michael's life became more isolated. Fans screamed his name wherever he went. Crowds fainted just by touching him. He couldn't walk down a street, go shopping, or even sit at a restaurant without chaos erupting. Fame, which once seemed like a dream, had become a gilded prison. One of the most unforgettable incidents happened in 1983, during the taping of the Motown 25, Yesterday, Today, Forever TV special. Michael took the stage to perform Billie Jean. In a black sequined jacket, a single glove glittering, and a fedora pulled low, he unveiled a dance move the world had never seen, the moonwalk. For a few seconds, time seemed to stop. Millions watching at home gasped. It wasn't just a dance step, it was magic, the impossible made real. Overnight, the moonwalk became a cultural phenomenon. Michael had changed the language of performance forever. But even as he soared, shadows followed. Michael's physical appearance began to change. His skin grew lighter, his nose narrower. Rumors swirled. Was he bleaching his skin? Was he ashamed of being black? The truth was more complicated. Michael suffered from vitiligo, a rare skin condition that causes depigmentation. But the media rarely accepted that explanation. They mocked him, called him names, turned his appearance into cruel jokes. Michael, who had always been sensitive about his looks, was deeply hurt. He longed for acceptance, but the more he changed, the more the world speculated. Some believe his endless plastic surgeries were less about vanity and more about escaping the face he had been mocked for since childhood. Then came 1984, a year of both triumph and tragedy. Michael and his brothers reunited for the Victory Tour, filling stadiums across America. But during a Pepsi commercial shoot, disaster struck. Michael's hair caught fire when a pyrotechnic went off too early. He suffered second-degree burns on his scalp. Though he recovered, the pain lingered, leading him into the world of painkillers, a dangerous path that would follow him for the rest of his life. Despite the setback, Michael's star continued to rise. He became a symbol of hope, of unity, of what music could achieve. In 1985, he co-wrote We Are the World with Lionel Richie, gathering dozens of superstars to raise money for famine relief in Africa. The song raised over $60 million, proving that music could not only entertain but heal. Yet the higher Michael climbed, the lonelier he became. His home, Neverland Ranch, became both a wonderland and a fortress. Filled with amusement rides, animals, and endless toys, it was Michael's attempt to reclaim the childhood he never had. He once said, "I will never stop being a child, it's all I know." To many, Neverland was enchanting. To others, it was strange. And soon, it would become the center of one of the darkest storms of his life. By the late 1980s, Michael released Bad, 1987. Though it didn't surpass Thriller, it was still a monumental success, with hits like Smooth Criminal and Man in the Mirror. The accompanying world tour was record-breaking, pulling in millions of fans across continents. Michael wasn't just an American icon anymore, he was global. From Tokyo to London, Johannesburg to Sydney, crowds wept, screamed, and fainted at the sight of him. But fame this intense was unsustainable. The media hounded him. Paparazzi followed his every move. Tabloids invented wild stories, claiming he slept in an oxygen chamber, that he wanted to buy the bones of the Elephant Man, that he was turning himself into something not human. Michael became Wacko Jacko in the press, a nickname he despised. Behind the headlines was a man desperate for love, misunderstood at every turn. Then came the first accusations. In 1993, a 13-year-old boy named Jordan Chandler accused Michael of molestation. The world was shocked. Michael, who had always been seen as gentle and childlike, now stood accused of a crime that horrified millions. He denied the charges with tears in his eyes, insisting he would never harm a child. But the damage was done. To avoid a drawn-out trial, Michael's team settled the case for a reported $23 million. Though this was not an admission of guilt, many took it as one. Michael's reputation began to crack. The stress broke him. During a televised interview with Oprah Winfrey in 1993, Michael spoke candidly about his vitiligo, his abusive childhood, and his loneliness. For a moment, the world saw the man behind the myth, but sympathy was fleeting. The press continued its relentless assault. By 1995, Michael released History, Past, Present and Future, Book 1, a double album combining greatest hits with new material. The album was defiant, filled with anger at the media and the world. Songs like They Don't Care About Us and Scream, a duet with his sister Janet, revealed a man fighting back. Yet even as he lashed out, his health declined. Painkillers from his burn injury, coupled with stress, began to take a toll. Still, Michael never stopped dreaming. He planned elaborate tours, new music, and projects that could once again prove his brilliance. His resilience, even under fire, showed a side of him that few understood. But darker storms were still ahead. The mid-1990s marked both resilience and unraveling for Michael Jackson. His music still echoed across the globe, but the controversies weighed heavier than ever. He was no longer just a performer, he was a battleground of perception. For some, he remained a genius beyond compare. For others, a figure of suspicion. And for Michael himself, life was becoming a tightening noose of pressure, isolation, and pain. After the 1993 allegations, Michael attempted to rebuild. In 1996, he married Debbie Rowe, a nurse who had treated him during his dermatological struggles. Together, they had 2 children, Prince Michael and Paris. For Michael, fatherhood was sacred. He often said his children were his greatest creation, greater than any song, any performance. He shielded them fiercely from the public eye, covering their faces with veils or masks when they went outside. The world mocked him for it, but Michael insisted he was protecting them from the media circus that had devoured his own life. His love for his children was undeniable, but whispers of his eccentricity grew louder. The 1997 release of Blood on the Dance Floor and his continued touring couldn't silence the tabloids. Stories of bizarre behavior circulated relentlessly. Some were exaggerated, some were outright fabrications. The more Michael retreated into his private world, the more the media painted him as detached from reality. Then came 2003. In a documentary titled Living with Michael Jackson, British journalist Martin Bashir shadowed Michael for months, promising to show his humanity. Instead, the program painted him as deeply odd, especially after Michael admitted to letting children sleep in his bedroom, though he insisted it was innocent, born from his desire to share a sense of childhood wonder. The world erupted. Shortly afterward, Michael was charged with child molestation, triggering the trial of his life. For 2 years, Michael stood before the world, his every move dissected. The prosecution painted him as a predator. The defense argued he was a man frozen in childhood, misunderstood and exploited. In 2005, after months of testimony, the jury acquitted him on all counts. Michael broke down in tears. But victory came at a cost. His reputation had been shredded, his finances crumbling, his spirit battered. By then, Neverland, once his sanctuary, had become a haunting reminder of all he had lost. He abandoned it, retreating into a nomadic existence, moving between Bahrain, Ireland, and Las Vegas. He still dreamed of music, of returning to the stage, but the world seemed to have turned its back. The king of pop had become a ghost of himself, yet Michael was not finished. In 2009, he announced a series of comeback concerts titled This Is It, 50 shows in London's O2 Arena, his final curtain call. Fans erupted with joy. Tickets sold out in hours. For the first time in years, there was hope. Michael trained relentlessly, rehearsing late into the nights. Those who saw him in rehearsals said the magic was still there, the voice, the moves, the fire. He told his crew, "This is it. This is the final one. We owe it to the fans." But behind the scenes, his health was fragile. Years of painkillers, stress, and insomnia had taken a toll. To sleep, Michael relied on a powerful anesthetic called propofol, administered by his personal doctor, Conrad Murray. It was a dangerous dependency, and Michael's team knew it. But the show had to go on, and Michael pushed himself harder. On June 25, 2009, the unthinkable happened. Michael Jackson was found unresponsive at his Los Angeles home. He was rushed to UCLA Medical Center, but after countless attempts to revive him, he was pronounced dead. The cause, Acute propofol intoxication. The world stopped. News outlets broke the story, and within hours grief rippled across every continent. In Paris, Tokyo, Rio, Johannesburg, fans gathered in the streets, sobbing, singing his songs. Radio stations played his music non-stop. Social media, still in its infancy, was overwhelmed. Google thought the surge in searches for Michael Jackson was a cyber attack. Millions refused to believe it. The King of Pop was gone at just 50 years old. His memorial service at the Staples Center was broadcast live to more than 1 billion people worldwide. Celebrities wept. His daughter, Paris, barely 11, took the microphone and whispered through tears, "Ever since I was born, Daddy has been the best father you could ever imagine, and I just wanted to say I love him so much." That moment broke hearts across the globe, but Michael's story didn't end with his death. In many ways, it was only the beginning of his legacy. His music sales skyrocketed. This Is It, a documentary pieced together from his rehearsal footage, became one of the highest-grossing concert films ever. Fans made pilgrimages to his childhood home in Gary, Indiana, to Neverland, and to his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Murals appeared in cities worldwide. Michael Jackson had transcended mortality, and yet debates raged on. Was he a genius unfairly destroyed by the media, or a troubled soul responsible for his own downfall? Was he a victim of his childhood, or the architect of his eccentricity? These questions continue to divide people, but one truth remains unshakable. Michael Jackson changed music, performance, and culture in a way no one else has. He broke racial barriers, becoming the first black artist to dominate MTV. He turned music videos into art forms. He inspired generations of dancers, singers, and performers, from Usher to Beyoncé, from Justin Timberlake to The Weeknd. Even today, a child attempting the moonwalk is in some way carrying forward Michael's legacy. And beneath all the controversy, all the scandal, lies the undeniable essence of Michael Jackson. A boy who never had a childhood, who poured his soul into music, who gave every ounce of his being to entertain and heal the world. He once said, "The greatest education in the world is watching the masters at work." What he didn't realize was that he himself became the ultimate master. If there's one thing his life teaches us, it's that greatness is never simple. It is often messy, complicated, and filled with contradiction. Michael Jackson was fragile, yet indestructible, broken, yet whole, human, yet larger than life. And even now, more than a decade after his passing, his voice still soars, his dance still electrifies, his name still inspires awe. He is gone, but not gone. Silent, but never silenced. Because legends never truly die. Michael Jackson, the boy from Gary, the man the world called wacko, the genius they crowned the King of Pop, remains forever etched in the heartbeat of humanity. And perhaps that is the most haunting, beautiful truth of all.